Welcome to the Extra Time Podcast, where you'll hear sports stories you might not have heard about from people you might not have heard of. Let's get into this week's show.
Welcome back to the Extra Time Podcast, and unlike last week, it's a bit of a wet and miserable day in Melbourne. Autumn is here. We had some nice weather over the weekend, and it has since disappeared, but that means it's a perfect day for a podcast, and just settle in and give us a watch for, the next hour or so. We'll be talking about all sorts of sport that happened over the last week, and boy, was there a lot. Unfortunately, once again, Noah Fisher was laid out. He said he was unavailable yesterday, so still waiting to get both Woodsy and Fish on the podcast this season. But I do have the great man Mark Woods, who is always here with me, Hayden Box. Woodsy, how you going?
Going well. Footy's finally back. Well, even though the opening round didn't involve my Saints, but this weekend even your Hawks are playing. So looking forward to another big week in sport.
For sure. And the last week was big, and unfortunately we don't have our big cricket guru in the Fish, but it was a big week for our Aussies, and I don't really have much else to say here, Woodsy, other than, well, what do you say? And somehow we just did it again. We've done it again.
How many times does Australia just get out of jail? 162 New Zealand first innings. Australia on top in that first inning block of 256, and then New Zealand come out with 372. And I don't know about you, but I was thinking, this is going to be a loss incoming.
Yeah, and that was really capitalised. They capitalised on Rachin Ravindra's innings. He's an absolute, genuine young star. For me, he's just one piece away. If he doesn't lose his head, he goes on and he makes all these massive scores every time he bats, because he's got immense talent. He plays the right way. He's got class. He's got every shot. But sometimes, we saw it a lot in this Australia-New Zealand series, he just plays that one shot that he just regrets so much, and that's all you need against Australia. You play one bad shot, and we don't give you any second chances. So. But he made, I think it was an 80 in that second innings, and that was just a phenomenal knock to really set them up. Kugelheim batted really well in the tail as well, so they had contributors. I think they had 3 or 4 50s, which is the first time they've done that against Australia in quite a long time. And it really did look like, for the first time in about 13 tries, they were going to get the win over us, but wasn't to be. I think the last time they beat us in New Zealand even goes back about 20 years or something like that. So the drought continues, and I think you're right, Woods. One of the points I wrote down to talk about this match was I had no chance. I had us with no chance, because in our second innings, openers did nothing.
We were 5 for 80.
Yeah,
I think that's the biggest thing. We were 5 for 80, and then 6 for 220.
Chasing 280.
Mitch Marsh and Alex Carey putting a big 140 partnership on to get us back into the game, and then it looked like New Zealand could, with those 2 wickets at 220, could get back into it. But Pat Cummins with the unbeaten 32, which some actually calling him a bit selfish for taking the spotlight off Alex Carey's 98 unbeaten, preventing him from getting the ton.
If you ask me, I think Pat was more concerned about, getting that red ink and getting those winning runs, because he does like being the hero himself. But I used to, speak negatively about that trade of Paddy, but I absolutely love it now. And to be honest, Woods, my thoughts are he probably did want to leave that alone, but it's his trademark shot. He's won games, he's won matches playing that shot. I remember in the Ashes, it was a similar shot. It was like, back foot cut, and he saw it out wide there, and he's like, there's a massive gap there, and this is my shot. And he just played it, and the outfield was still pretty quick, and it ended up running all the way. I saw them run the first one, and I was like, oh boy, don't return, don't come back. Give Alex a shot to whack a 6 for the win. But they came back, and Alex didn't really mind. But that's just the selfless guy he is. And for me, your wicketkeeper's always important, but he is vital for us. I think it's pretty fair to say Paine was great, but in terms of impact with the bat, impact with the ball, with the gloves. I think we're in a bit of a lull since Had's retired, and the keeping position was one that we're trying to fill with different guys. Matty Wade came in, Paney obviously. We tried a few others, but I think Alex is our keeper for the long run now, and he's really solidified that most important position in the team, and he's taken it by the scruff of the neck. And I've got to put my hand up. I was coming back to Melbourne the other day, and I was at my lovely partner Sophie's family's place, and her old fellow was watching the cricket on the last day, and the Bison and Alex were out there. Oh no, Hetty was still out there at this stage. That didn't last long. But I walked in and I actually said to him, and I'll put my hand up and say I was wrong here, but I said to him, well, it's a lot for these guys to do because we're basically 9 wickets down here because our tail does nothing and Alex Carey is hopeless.
Well,
so either bullying works or I've got to put my hand up and say I don't know cricket. But when I got home and I checked the score, 2 hours later, I was like, what? How is it? We're 30 runs away. What is going on? I did look at Head's dismissal, which was quite stupid, but that's a different story. But yeah, Alex Carey, just phenomenal. It's probably the best 100 that wasn't 100 I've seen in a while. And yeah, I think he just needs that. Like, he needs a bit of a confidence. Like we see when he made that 100 at the G, and he gets confident. He has all the shots, and he's a very classy player. And I just like him because he's a left-hander. And 10 catches for the match as well, which was phenomenal in its own right.
I like how you brought up Hads, and it's something that I always think about when I'm looking at the test team, and you talk about keepers, and I think whoever was going to keep after Haddon was always going to struggle with the hype, the expectations, because it's not just about Haddon. You look at who was before Haddon and who was before the person before Haddon. I'm talking about Adam Gilchrist and Ian Healy. That's not part of the trivia that I've got set out, so I thought I'll just lead with that. But imagine, I think with Australians at least, the wicket-keeping spot is this golden, it's on a pedestal because of the people from the past that have made it such a big position. And the expectation that you've got to be good behind the glove, or good behind the stumps with the gloves, but also you've got to be good with the bat. I think it's a bit unfair for the people coming up, but it's that high level of expectation when you wicket keep for Australia. There's only one ever at a time for the men and one for the women, but there's only one. Like, you can have 2 fast bowlers, 3 fast bowlers playing at once. You can have 2 openers. You can have a few good batters. Few good all-rounders, but you only ever play 1 wicket-keeper.
Yeah, and I think it's not Alex's fault by any stretch, and he can't change it, but the history that we've had, we've absolutely been blessed, and I think, it's because of that history. It's because Gilly and Hads were so exciting. Like, they didn't just take the regulation catch, bat properly, dig in, try and save the innings. They'd bat with flair.
They
hit
made
big
the
shots.
innings their own.
They'd take catches that are 3 meters behind them and 4 meters to their side. When AC came in, it was a lot of pressure on him, but he's certainly an athlete. I mean, the guy played AFL, so he's perfect for what we have now, and he keeps setting records. Like, he keeps taking catches behind the stumps. And he really provides great leadership there in a slips cordon that's been changed around. He's been the really consistent one in there. So I've loved watching him, and it was a completely deserved man of the match performance, and he proved me wrong as well. So I'll be very keen to watch him in the whites for years to come. But someone that, and you mentioned openers before, I just think there's a question mark. What do we do with Stephen Smith?
I'm not sure. This is the big conundrum when obviously Warner retired. Is what does that opening pair look like moving forward? What does our batting dynamics look like? And I can't say for sure. I think I never thought of Smith as an opener. Never seen him as an opener. The fact that he is opening definitely surprises me, and I think it's one of those things where I'm not so sure what to do. Like, I'd almost say throw a young kid in, but that's almost throwing a lamb to slaughter in Test cricket, international cricket. Marnus, I think the same questions will be raised about him.
Some people have suggested Head. But the only thing for me with these suggestions is you're suggesting probably the three guys that are most out of form in the team. I mean, Marnus did make that 90, which he'll probably consider as good as a back to form century. But then, did not much in the second innings. So do you really take that or not? I think you're right. I think we, to an extent, missed our opportunity to try a young guy, because now the next series we play, if I'm not mistaken, is, guess what, against India. And it's the biggest series anyone's had in years, because us and India are without a doubt the two best countries in the world. India just walloped the Poms, which we love to see. Sent them back crying. Anyway, that's going to be massive. And I think now we almost have to just go with the same 11, because if you're blooding a young guy into that series, Bumrah's going to have a field day with him. So, very interesting. I think, he's going to have a lot of time to get his form back, Steve Smith, because I'm not sure if he's going to get a seat on the plane to the West Indies for the World Cup, T20 World Cup. He might. But I think, if he comes back and just beasts the Shield, he needs to, if he goes back, open for New South Wales, make as many runs as he can, and get used to our pitches again. Get used to, seeing that shiny new red ball. And I know he won't, but I would love to see him stop moving so damn far across the stumps, because the bloke is just a red-hot target for an LBW.
Oh, it's a wait and see, I think, for this. Is now the time to basically have a go with whoever for preparation for the Australian summer? I think that's where, as a cricket fan, you kind of forget what's actually the international series, because there's so much going on at home with other sports that you go, oh, the next big challenge for Australia is actually in November, but you forget all the winter side of things.
So obviously there'll be a few other series, but a lot of it's going to be white ball. We've got the IPL as well, and then the T20 World Cup in the West Indies and America. There's a couple of games in the US. But I came across a little graphic this morning, which I thought would be great for a bit of blind rankings action, since you got me to do it last week. But this isn't an opinion-based blind rankings. This actually has a right answer. So I'm going to give you 4 batsmen, and you need to rank their second innings average. And unfortunately, I've had a mare here, and I've forgotten where I got this from, but it was on Facebook. One of the
I'm sure you can find out, and we'll leave it right down below.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it is accurate. I'm not sure the time period, but I've got some numbers here. So, as I said, you'll need to try and rank them in correct order. There's 4 of them. So, you ready?
Yep.
Rohit Sharma.
Go 2.
2, okay. Stephen Smith.
I'll go 4.
Pat Cummins.
Not knowing who the one is, I think I've kind of gone into your trap, leaving the 1 and 3 open. I'm going to go 1.
Johnny Bairstow.
I'll go 3.
You were pretty close. So, number 4, Johnny Bairstow, 31.2. Number 3, Rohit Sharma, 32.4. Number 2, Stephen Smith with 33.2. And with a higher average than all of those 3 world-class batsmen in the 4th innings.
I'm just glad I got 1.
Sorry.
I'm just glad I got the number 1 right.
Oh, sorry, I think it was fourth innings. So fourth innings average. Pat Cummins has a better fourth innings average in tests than Stephen Smith, Rohit Sharma, and Johnny Bairstow.
That makes sense with the not outs. And
And
being a bowler, he gets a few not outs. It adds up.
it's someone else that I doubted, and he just keeps getting us homeward. So maybe I should just keep doubting people, and they'll have world-class performances. But absolutely love Pat.
Publicly doubt it, make yourself look like a fool, and then take all the credit for it, just like anybody in the media.
Yeah, well, I'm a natural at that, but no, between what he did in the Ashes, what he just did last week, and everywhere in between, he'll come out in the first innings when we probably do need to set a big score, and he'll make 5. But when it's a pressure situation, I back our captain. And for a quick bowler, one of the best quick bowlers in the world, for us to have so much confidence in him with the bat, fourth innings in a pressure situation, just shows you how bloody good Pat Cummins is, and boy, are we lucky to have him, and can't wait for the rest of the year in cricket. But unfortunately, there's not much more red ball stuff, but we'll keep you updated when we're in action next time. But something that was in action and will be again in action for another 23 or 24 more rounds. We haven't really had a round yet. We had a round 0.
It was a round 0, and then you say 24 more rounds. Well, I don't know how much AFL is actually produced throughout a year. But you got to actually think now till the end of September. That's how long we're thinking about. We're going to be thinking, living, breathing AFL, as we always do this time of year, from now till the end of September.
Yeah, it's a hard life when, someone like me, you follow the NFL for however long it is, 7 or 8 months, and oh, no, it's over. Oh, and then a week later, oh, no, footy's back. AFL footy's back. Yeah, it's pretty tough. It's not that fun. No, I kid. It's awesome. And like I said before, AFL footy's back with round 0 last week, or opening round, however you like to call it. And like I said last episode, if you caught it, there was 4 games. And, well, we had a defensive masterclass, or defensive onslaught on the Thursday night, which Sydney emerged victorious at home against Melbourne. We had a 2-sided thriller at the Gabba in a replay.
I think this was...
potentially match of the year.
I dare say, Matt, if you go match of the round, and I think this is something we can... let's do it right now. Match of the round each week. And then we can discuss. We can keep note of what we've done. And then we can discuss it. So you've said already match of the year. Well, I'll go match of round 0.
Match of round 0. Yeah, that's fair enough. And that was between Carlton and Brisbane. And if you didn't catch it, the Lions were about 8 or 9 goals, 46 points ahead at halftime.
There were a lot of Carlton fans that were thinking of going for another team in that game alone.
There were
a few in the group, few in our group chats that
giving out it's a Mickey Mouse round. Oh, it doesn't count. And how that changed at the final siren. They came all the way back, and who else but Harry Mackay kicked the winning goal, and they won by a solitary point. And I think for the whole second half, something above 50, nearly 60 minutes of game time in the second half, the margin was never above 5 points, which was phenomenal considering the first half, Brisbane were never, Carlton were never closer than about 30 points.
Yeah, well, I think another big talking point wasn't actually what was happening on the ground. I know in sport we always think about what happens on the ground, but it was actually what was happening off the ground. There was a whole bay filled of supporters from the Carlton Football Club dressed up as the Blues Brothers.
I love this. I love this organised, gang supporting of a team. It's what our sport needs. Like, you watch, if you ever look up basically any college in America and you look up their football programs, like look up Penn State's White Knight, look up, West Virginia when they come out to Country Road, like that sort of stuff. And it's just a different sort of atmosphere. You look at the Premier League soccer. We don't quite have that because we're very, free. Anyone can go sit with anyone. But when I see this sort of stuff, absolutely love that organised supporter stuff. And I haven't always been a massive fan of Carlton supporters. They annoy you. Like, that's fair.
I think that's the thing. It annoys me that they get this good gimmick as well. It's like they get the Blues Brothers.
I love it. I'm all about them now because I do love Carlton. I do love their supporters because they've suffered. Like I'm a Hawthorn supporter, and you're not probably going to agree with me here because you've suffered too, and I get that. I love Saints supporters as well, but they've just been through so much pain. So when I see them and they're just feeling the G, they're feeling every ground they go to. We obviously knew a couple of people that went up there from Victoria. You love to see it because this is the highlight of their footy life, seeing their team, and they've risen from 2018 when they were awful.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that Blues Brothers thing, and they were behind the sticks as well, which made it even better.
I'll go, this is the challenge, and I know, okay, very low podcast, but here's the challenge for any Carlton fan watching, and chuck this to any socials you want. Carlton fans, if you make the grand final, dress up as a Blues brother for grand final day. Make the G... make it actually feel like it's a funeral for the other team.
A whole section of just people in fake suits.
No, bloody well, go the full
Monty.
Go the full bore of actual Blues Brother suits.
I think you'll see a lot of people losing their mind if Carlton do make the big dance, that's for sure. But yeah, they got the job done by a point out of nowhere. They came from the clouds is probably an overused term in comebacks, but genuinely fits here because they came from absolutely nowhere. Their two big forwards combined for about 9 or 10 goals, which is, unstoppable. They didn't even have Walsh. Zach Williams, amazing to see him back. After having a serious, knee injury myself, anyone who has a serious lower leg injury, especially people that go through it, I'm so happy to see him. And then on the other side of that card, I can't really explain how tough it is, but, for Sam Doherty, what do you even say, man? I mean, life is just it's awful to this guy. You got to stop doing this sort of stuff to this guy. I'm not saying he's not going to get through it because he's one of the toughest people. He kept playing. He torn meniscus and ACL. He kept playing, saved a goal. I mean, the man is superhuman and fully support. His podcast sends a full support to him. It's one of the sadder things I've seen happen in footy for a while, and Kadeem Coleman as well, who is just really coming into his own on the footy field, one of Brisbane's most important defenders. He's done his ACL as well, so hopefully they can come back really strong. I know that they will, but it's just the awful part of footy, Woods. There was quite a few serious injuries across the weekend.
It's always hard to see because, I mean, you go through a whole pre-season training for this moment, and then the opening round, you're basically, that's the end of your season. And I can think of many players who have been torn down by injury or have had multiple injuries. Paddy McCartan being one of them.
It was great to see him at the game too on Thursday night.
Yeah.
I saw he was there supporting
and his former players.
Awesome to see.
There was another former Sydney player, which if Noah was here, I'd be asking him about it, who a few knee injuries, I think it was, throughout his career.
Yeah.
He came back from a knee injury, and then in that game, or a game shortly after that, he does it again, and it's hard to see, but as you said, we send our full support to him, and hopefully we will see him back on the footy field next year.
And then Saturday was the final day of opening round, and it started in the afternoon up on the sunny Gold Coast. Looks absolutely beautiful. Would have loved to have been there, and a big statement was made.
Now, this is actually, I'm going to cut you off here. I want you to question without notice. Sure. What is the name of the stadium?
It's changed again, and I did hear it. Now my memory's bad.
Okay, I don't feel it quite as bad now with doing the trivia stuff.
I know that the Giant Stadium is now called NG.
Yep.
After the energy company, I think they are. It's something Boys, maybe? I'm not sure. It went from Heritage Bank real quick. They've changed it again.
Yeah, so the
sponsors are just
everywhere. The reason is because Heritage Bank has actually merged with another bank.
Okay.
So the People's Choice Stadium is what I believe it to be known as. So
right.
A little bit of trivia there for you that I was like,
still metric on to me.
People's First Stadium.
People's First Stadium. Well, at People's First Stadium, it was almost a rinse and repeat from the night before. The script, they didn't create a new script for that game because the Suns, Dimmer's Suns, absolutely just blew the Tigers out of the water, scalding heat, and it came out to another massive lead. I think when I switched it on, wasn't really watching on Saturday. I was in other places, but I switched it on during the second quarter, and I'm pretty sure the Tigers had kicked one score. It was a one straight goal, and Gold Coast were, 60 or 70 points. So they're up nearly 10 goals before half time. And it was just ease. It would literally look like one of those match simulations, but Gold Coast had played their starting 22 and Richmond had played their under 15s. Like, it was just ease out of the middle, and it all started with Matt Rowell, who I want to document this and say that is one of the best football performances I've ever seen in my life. The bloke had, 20 clearances, the most since Paul Salmon back in the 90s. 20 clearances. He had over 30 disposals. I think he had 36 disposals, 32 or 36 disposals. 26 of them, I'm getting the numbers confused, Woods, but 23 of them contested. Absolute bull. He can eat all the grass he wants, Woods, because this guy is an absolute gun. I had to look. He had me looking up what his Brownlow odds are, because the guy is just... He really came alive in his rookie year, and then he did his shoulder in Geelong. He would have won that Rising Star. I'll die on that hill. And then last couple of years, afterwards, he's been a bit not himself. I think he was sort of trying to find his confidence in his body, and boy, it's back now. I know that wasn't Richmond's best midfield, you could probably say, but it was just the Matt Rowell show. Malcolm Roses looks really exciting. I think Dimmer's going to love the way he can use him and the forward line. The other King brother, he signed that big deal. He's got the goatee going, Woods, which I think your King could probably get going too. Doesn't look too bad. Looks dangerous. And, Collins in the defence, Ballard, Will Powell, Fisher's man. He'll love it if he was here, and we were talking about Will Powell. He was outstanding as well. The Tigers did pretty well to come back, but Dimmer's Suns, they've made a statement, and Woods, could this be the year that they crack into the top 8?
Oh,
could it be? Or have we not faced good enough opposition yet?
I think it's only time will tell. I think you can say it every year. I think there's been that kind of this is finally the year, and then something will happen. And I don't want to put the cursor on it just yet. So I'm just going to hold off and wait. But no, it looks set to be a amazing year. Obviously, only 8 teams have played, and a big round 1 coming up, and
yeah,
it
well,
starts Thursday night with the traditional starting. So if you don't really feel like footy's back until Carlton Richmond, don't worry, you don't have to wait long. It's going to be this weekend, and I've already got a few people on social media, Carlton fans, saying if we don't win by more than 50, something's wrong.
Well, yeah, and it's going to be such a great season because I think footy is in such a good place, and there's so many contenders, and each week you can make a statement. Like on the weekend, in what was one of the biggest and most massively covered games, most massively anticipated round 0 games I've ever seen, in the Giants and Collingwood, the Giants made probably the biggest statement of the year, and solidified to me that they are a genuine favourite for this premiership. And I know that, you can give all the excuses in the world for Collingwood. They were inaccurate, or they kick straight, maybe. But to me, they were horrible defensively. And Nick Dacos doesn't... I won't say that.
I think GWS, though, has exposed how to actually play against Collingwood and how to beat
Pressure was
Collingwood.
Immense. Skills,
if
amazing.
If other teams can replicate that, then they're going to do well. The problem is I don't think other teams will be able to do so in a time frame where Collingwood will be able to learn how to counteract that.
I think the main thing that got them that win was obviously Collingwood. It was out in the media, like they were potentially a little bit annoyed that they had to go up to Sydney. Coxie was annoyed. He had to go on a cattle ground, but inspirational performance for his 2 touches after, touching the big mummy, which was pretty funny because I think back when he used to play mummy, I don't think he ever got that high over him because he probably would have been scared. Anyway, different story. But I think they just have this hunger. Orange Tsunami is what everyone's donned them, but the hunger of these Giants, who I haven't seen a team in a long time in a lot of sports, like any sport really, that have been like a point away or 5 points away or 4 points away from a grand final so often. And I think the whole club just has this hunger that they just want to get back there. They had their chance. Richmond shoved the door in their face, but they just want to get back there. And it's the same thing with Gold Coast. They just want to get to the 8. So when you play them, you know that, oh boy, these guys are going to be hungry. And on Saturday night, the Giants were hungry. And that's why they ran away with that, because Collingwood know, once you win a flag in the AFL, I feel like you don't have to give it much for the first half of the season, because they know they're going to win their games against the bottom 5 teams. And they're going to have 2 buys now, which is getting a bit of speculation recently. With opening round, they're going to have an extra buy. And I think they'll come back after that, and that's when they'll know, all right, this back half of this season, this is where we start, because we know all we got to do is get to September, and we play Collingwood footy, you can beat anyone. So I think that's not going to worry them almost at all. They know what they got a kick straighter. They know they've probably got to fix up their defence, but it's the hunger for me, and I loved watching that, because they've got so many young guys like Callum Brown, this bloke who's no one would really know around the league, kicked 5 goals, and he was kicking goals just like he grabbed the footy, he turned around and he doesn't miss, and they just find guys like this. They don't have to be superstars. They just have to play the Giants' way, and I like seeing it. They've got a really stout defence. Buckley and Taylor were awesome down there as well. Midfielders obviously speaks for itself. I think Kelly and Tom Green were outstanding. And then the forward line, it's really anywhere you look. Jesse Hogan's great to see him back playing some really good footy as well. So big statement for them. I'm really keen to see how their season turns out, because they won't be... Oh, I probably shouldn't say this. I might get made look silly, but they don't have the biggest test the next 2 weeks, playing North Melbourne and then West Coast. But I think, once their season goes on, I think they'll be up there for sure.
Well, I think you're answering one of the questions I think we put out to each other is who's flag favourite. I think you've made a strong case, and I can't argue with you. There's either GWS or Carlton. I think at the moment.
And how good would it be to see a GWS Carlton grand final?
Oh, that would
Speak
be
about
good.
Hunger.
But what I'll do, and I'm gonna, on top of the who can and can't win the flag, I'm gonna hold that off that for this week. But I'm just going to make note of something throughout the season. I call it, and I've done this throughout a few seasons, but I call it the current champions. So if you think in wrestling terms, how you've got a champion, they beat the former, beat someone, So right now, with Collingwood entering the season as champions, they've just lost to GWS. So right now, they're the title holders. They're the ones you got to beat. You got to showcase yourself to them. So right now, I just want to see how this progresses through the season, because I like the who's flag favourite, but it's also who's the team that is performed against the teams that have performed.
Who's leading the pack at this stage? Yeah, I like that, and a bit of a ranking. So I think in that logic, and I don't think anyone would really say this is crazy. I think the GWS are leading the pack. They are ranked number 1, but obviously I would have Collingwood in the top 4. If I'm doing you on a top 5 ranking, I think they're in the top 4. But I'm actually going to... You can't not put Sydney in there. I think this Friday night game this week... Whoa.
Of the 8 teams that have played, you've got 4 preliminary finals. And...
I think Carlton has to be second, though. I think it's
GWS. It's hard to rank them based... I think GWS... I do like the call of Carlton being second, and I do like the fact you're putting Sydney third. I know
I've got Brisbane. I think Collingwood is over Brisbane because of recent events. But I think you're going to have Brisbane. Because
in the 4 for now.
Just because what they did in that first half, that's them.
Yep.
And obviously, against most other sides in the league that don't have Carlton's, built up, history and failure and revenge and all that sort of stuff, you don't give up that lead. And I think all they've got to really do is, it's just mental for Brisbane. They've got they've got everything else. They've got stars on every line. They play in a really good brand of football. They can score against anybody. They can defend anybody. But you can just see it in games. They lose the strength in their mind and they let other teams in. It happened all through last year. It happens every time they go to the G. And all they need to do is just work on that, which is really hard. But I think after that they'll be pretty unstoppable. But yeah, I've got to have them in there as well. But very keen to see the rest of the teams play this weekend.
I think it'll be a strong indication, and if the orange tsunami can continue, I think it might be an orange September.
It could be. A big sound might be echoing through September. But, well, it's not quite September, but there are actually finals on right now, Woods, and it's the NBL finals, NBL playoffs, and I caught a couple of the games, and I talked it up last week, and in the back of my mind I was thinking, people are going to think this is, going to be incredible, and it was even better than I thought it would be. It was outstanding. Both series are at 1-1 in the best of three. So all four teams won their home game, which is just... and we're talking like they weren't, one-siders. Like both of the Melbourne and Illawarra games, OT, if you don't mind, and crowds going nuts. The Jack Jumpers came back from, a 10, 15-point deficit to win the other night down in Tassie, which, as you'd expect, was going ballistic. And at the same time, Perth looked really dominant behind Bryce. So it's just like, how do you even pick it for one? But for me, sitting and looking back at how darn good the NBL is, they'll be so happy. Because if you I was thinking about this while I was in the gym this morning, Woods, just something to talk about. I mean, you really can't lose. From this point on, the NBL cannot lose because any story you have in any matchup that ends up being the grand final series matchup is just phenomenal. So say if you have the Illawarra and the Jack Jumpers, the two underdogs going against each other, Illawarra's story after being dead bottom, picking up Justin Tatum as head coach and coming all the way, pushing Melbourne to OT twice when Melbourne have barely lost all year. Phenomenal story. So, and if they play the Jack Jumpers, well, the Jack Jumpers are always there. They'd be going for their first ever in, 3 years? 4 years?
Since 2020, yeah.
Yeah. And so that's a story. But then if you have Melbourne, obviously it's just
Continue
like
their
trying to compete.
yeah.
What's almost a perfect season. If you have Melbourne and the Jack Jumpers, it's like the old dog versus the new dog. If you have Melbourne and Perth, well, you used to have Melbourne and Perth.
I think that's
a throwback.
yeah.
And, and to me, for having watched all four teams in these sort of preliminary finals games, I actually can't pick because I'd love to pick my United and say we're clearly, we've been on top all year. We're clearly the more experienced, more dominant side. But as I said, the hunger of these Hawks, and Justin Tatum said it himself, we're playing with house money. And there is no more dangerous team in final sport than a team that probably shouldn't have been there and they know they're playing with house money. They just throw hell to leather.
A team that's got nothing to lose is basically what you're saying.
Hell to leather. Like like watching that game and we lost, so I was flat because like my man, and it pains me to say this, my man Chris Golding missed a free throw to clinch it and we ended up losing in OT. But that stadium was going off and all the Illawarra players just play with this energy that Melbourne can't match.
Yep.
Melbourne just have to sit there and try and, like Daly was trying to just calm the ship, try and stick to their structures. But Illawarra just play with this energy that's just so dangerous. So I cannot wait. John Cain Arena tonight. We're recording this on the Wednesday. John Cain Arena. For a chance to make the grand final series, it'll be Melbourne and Illawarra. One more time. Unbelievable stuff. And then obviously Tassie and Perth. Well, they go back to the jungle over in Perth and try and decide that one. And it's
exciting times.
Oh, man. Make sure you switch on the NBL because these last two games are going to go down to the very last second. I can already tell. But, yeah, what a story they all are. But I've got to say, for a coach that come in like mid-season, Justin Tatum is just, Jason's pretty good. His son plays for the Celtics. I don't really like him. I'm a Lakers fan, but he's pretty good. But what Justin's done this year for the Hawks, it's just like... It'll go down in history even if they don't make it to the grand final series because in such a short time he's got this whole group together and they're fighting and they've brought Illawarra way back into contention, which is great. And I think that's enough on the resume to get him a decent gig in America.
So, with all that said, Boxdown, now I know you said it was hard to split him, but I want you to give me, right now, before the game's been played tonight, so your option might already be eliminated, but who's the favourite?
Oh, this is really tough. I think I'm going to have to be biased here and go with Melbourne. But if I was forced to make a prediction, I think the travel for the Jack Jumpers and how they had to come all the way back, they weren't dominated in the first half or anything, but they weren't quite clicking, and they used a lot of their energy against Perth. I think Perth have the upper hand over in Perth with how that home crowd is. I think Perth will make it, and I just have to have faith in United tonight. But to be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if it goes to OT for the third straight time, because these games have just had so much pressure and mistakes are made late in them, especially this Melbourne and Illawarra series. So, and like I said, they're playing with house money.
So United for the championship?
Yeah, I've got to stick with my boys, and I would love to see it. We haven't won in a couple of years, so I'm going to stick to my guns.
Okay, well, talking about championships, I've got a bit of a quiz for you.
Okay.
So, on the theme of championships, if you look to the screen right now, current champions.
Oh, man. Okay.
So, there are 15 there. We've got AFL, NRL, NBL, BBL, WBBL, Hockey 1 men, Hockey 1 women, A-League men, A-League women, the NBA, the ABL, Major League Baseball, NFL, NHL, and the Premier League.
Oh, my.
So,
I love this, but I don't.
This is going to test. You've tested my knowledge for weeks. You've made me look like a fool. This is the time.
All right. We'll start at the top. We'll go with Collingwood Magpies.
Correct.
Penrith Panthers.
Penrith Panthers is correct. Go with the ones you know first.
Kansas City Chiefs.
Kansas City Chiefs.
Manchester City. They just win everything. Oh, I didn't watch the BBL Grand Final because we weren't in it. This is not good. I covered the hockey one as well. Oh, boy.
I'll tell you the hockey one. It's the same
It's
team.
the same, yeah. And it's for me, it's between Brisbane and Perth, but I'll come back to that one.
Yep.
We'll go with the Denver Nuggets.
The Denver Nuggets for the NBA?
Yes, please. Oh, my. Oh. I can't even remember the NBL champion.
I'll give you a clue with the NBL. They're not in it. They're not in the 4. That might give you a clue on to who to think about.
Sydney? Yeah. Oh, I didn't pay attention to that because I hate them. Anyway. Oh, my God. Do I have strikes? Or
I'll give you 3 strikes.
Hockey 1, Brisbane.
Is hockey 1 at Brisbane? Let's find out.
Yeah, Brisbane.
I'll give you both of them because, as I did say, they're the same.
Yep. Is ABL... Oh, you told me they don't lose. Adelaide?
The Adelaide Giants is correct.
No idea on American baseball. No idea. Dodgers?
No, that's strike 1.
Yeah, I don't know many other teams. I'm going to struggle there.
Go with the ones you know.
Oh, with Brisbane and Sydney. Who won? Was it Brisbane and Sydney? Yeah, it was. Oh.
What are you thinking about here?
BBL was Brisbane and Sydney.
It's a good game as well.
Where was that played? Can you tell me where it was played? You don't have to.
I think it was played at the... Pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, it was played at the Losers venue.
Brisbane? No, it's not. Oh.
Sorry, there was a bit of a malfunction there.
Yeah, it was Brisbane. Okay. I remember Josh Brown's 100 in the semi.
Yep.
Soccer. Oh, man.
This is where you need Noah, but you don't have him.
NHL. This has got me good. Have I got two left? Two strikes
You got
left?
2 strikes left.
I can eat one.
I'll give you a bit of a clue for each of them now.
Okay.
So NHL has been big in the news for Australian sport.
Vegas. The Vegas. Hold on. I don't remember. Golden Knights. That's it.
You got Vegas right.
Las Vegas Golden Knights.
Yep.
Of course. I knew
the,
that.
The MLB team is it's from a big state.
I just don't know teams.
Name a big state.
Texas?
So what would do you know the Texas team name?
Surely Dallas has a team. Wait, is it Houston?
No, it's
Oh, Texas.
Yeah.
Texas has a team. Oh,
the Texas Rangers.
Texas Rangers. I didn't even know they had a team. Soccer. City?
That's strike 2.
Oh, man. A victory like that? I don't know. He played in the WBBL. I feel like it was...
Just for them. Okay, so I'll give A-League is not a capital city team.
Oh, great.
The A-League women is. But it's not a Victorian team. None of these are Victorian teams.
Right, okay. That's good. Oh, no.
And all of these have the A-League men, obviously, because it's not a capital city team, that you can't see another codes from that same city. But the WBBL and the A-League women, another team is represented from that. I mean, they gives it 1, 2, 3, a 1 in 3 chance for both of them.
Was the WBBL the Sydney Thunder?
It wasn't. That's strike 3. So if we go WBBL first, it was the Adelaide Strikers.
Oh, right.
The A-League men's was Central Coast Mariners. That was the toughest of the lot.
Yeah, no.
And then A-League women was Sydney FC.
Okay.
So you've done
Not
pretty
bad.
well. You got 12 out of 15 with a little bit of help for some of them. But
Thank you.
well done. And hopefully we can see how we go next week. We're doing trivia as a separate topic, but as we get back onto it, just thought I'd ask you a few questions about champions concerning
Yeah, I
the
didn't
NBL.
mind that. Yeah. So, hopefully, I'll keep track of those champions this year because there'll be a few different ones, but that wasn't too bad. But speaking of champions and around sports around the world, we're into Aussies around the grounds. And as you know, this is my special segment, the last one of the show, and each week I started off with a weekly wonder, and usually I make the weekly wonder someone you probably haven't heard of or someone that's out and about doing something. But this week I could not go past my man OP, Oscar Piastri. 4th place finish in the Saudi Arabian GP over the weekend, and he spent almost the whole race chasing 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton's rear. He couldn't quite get past him, even though he was on the fresher tyres, because Oscar stopped behind the early safety car and Lewis didn't. So Lewis actually ended up defending quite well, but he just couldn't get past him, Oscar, for a long time. But it's funny to say, but for me, watching him not quite get past, try different things, actually, it did the opposite of make me think, oh, he's no good. He can't get past a car with older tyres. It actually made me think this guy has championship pedigree, because the mentality, like, it would have been so frustrating. Like, the team was even on the radio at some point saying, like, he's going off the track, he's swerving under braking, trying to get some sort of penalty so he could get past. But Oscar just wasn't phased. He didn't say much on the radio. He just tried and tried. He kept going, tried different things, and his pace was phenomenal. And I think now that McLaren have given him a decent car, a car that's really quick in the straights, and especially at Saudi Arabia, suited him really well. A 4th place finish, picked up a heap more points. The kid's got something, and I absolutely loved seeing an Aussie up there again. And he's a cool guy. When he came in, he was a bit quiet. People weren't really sure about him because he sort of replaced Daniel Ricciardo at McLaren, and people were a bit like, oh, he doesn't give much. He's not like, because he wasn't that out and about, flamboyant guy that Daniel Ricciardo is, with his big smile, loud voice, bit of a troublemaker. That's not Oscar. But now that he's warmed into it, he's actually a really funny guy, and he's great for the sport. And he tweeted out after the race, like they all do, great result, sort of thing. But he added, I'm now a Mercedes, I'm a Mercedes rear specialist, because he chased, Lewis Hamilton for most of the race, and just jokes like that. So he's great for the sport. I cannot wait to see him in Australia. But he's my weekly wonder. But we'll skip over to the NBA quickly, because my man Patty Mills, he's still going, he's still kicking, and he made his debut for the Miami Heat this week, and he's wearing number 88 Woods. So you don't see that too often, but I don't mind it. I reckon I'm going to cop a Miami Heat Patty Mills 88 jersey.
I was about to ask, are you going to go out? I always see you in vintage gear. If you don't know anything about Boxy, he is wearing a Sooners cap right now, but he's usually decked out in vintage gear, so I can't wait. You're going to have to wear it for a podcast, I reckon. You're going to have to buy it and wear it.
I'll grab an 88. I think he's the first 88 in Heat history as well, which is a bit of a point of difference. And I think I saw, his coach, Eric Spoelstra, saying it's great to see that a Heat killer is playing for us now, obviously referring to when the Spurs and the Heat used to go head-to-head in the playoffs, in the finals. So that was always a good matchup, and Paddy obviously started his career, I'm pretty sure, at San Antonio, and a really, babyface-looking Paddy Mills won his championship there. And I think during the week, my old man's just had a bit of a hip replacement, and he was watching TV the other day, and one of the Paddy Mills sort of specials, 30 for 30s or documentaries came on, and it was talking about his early days at San Antonio, and he said, this is great. I'm like, yeah, he's still going too. He's one of our best ever, Paddy Mills, so it's great to see him still shooting well over there in Miami. And meanwhile, something else that should be celebrated, Josh Giddey and his OKC Thunder atop the West, which is outstanding for a team that's almost the youngest in the NBA. So great stuff to Josh, and obviously Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, their point guard, has really come alive this season, but I think it shouldn't be discredited what Josh did last year to set up that team for success. He's just the ultimate playmaker for that side, and they've got a lot of young guns, so best of luck to them. They're obviously going to be running pretty deep into the playoffs, you'd hope. So we'll move, just sidestep a little here, and I won't go too long on this because I literally could go all day because there's been so many moves. But in the NFL, over the last 2 days, I saw Adam Schefter, who's one of the big reporters in America. He had about 17 to 18 hours screen time yesterday in free agency because there's that much going on, Woods. But something that I saw, one of our Aussies, Cam Johnston, obviously punted for the Houston Texans last season. He's made the move over to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So congratulations to Cam. Hopefully he can strut his stuff in the black and yellow and have a good season for the Steelers, alongside Russell Wilson, Woods, who has been let go by your Denver Broncos. They wanted nothing to do with him, but they're still going to pay him. The biggest cap hit in the history of sports.
Well, I think this was another trivia question I could have done based on just Denver Broncos quarterbacks since Peyton Manning. It's another one. We just haven't found the right fit. I think that's the biggest thing. We're going after, I hate to say it, but we go after the people that are on, they're past the peak. I won't say their use by date has expired, but they've been approaching it. I think that's one of the biggest problems is we go after Russell Wilson from Seattle, and it's like he destroyed us in a Super Bowl 48, Got destroyed in 49 by Patriots, if I'm not mistaken. Should have ran the ball. Was that the one?
Yeah, you don't have to bring that up, but that's all right.
I know. Well, you're bringing up this bringing a bit of pain to me. So I thought I did not have that prepared. That just came just rushing to my memory as soon as I started talking.
Oh, we can't avoid
But
it. It's okay.
It's from the looks of it. I mean, a lot of teams are going to look very different, and I think Denver's going to be one of them.
So
where it's going to be almost a new team.
Yeah, I think they've committed now. I think they're going to go to the draft for a quarterback, potentially like maybe a JJ McCarthy, who's just won the national title with Michigan. Serviceable. Obviously, they don't have a top 5 pick, so they're not going to really get anywhere near the superstar caliber that is, a Drake May or Caleb Williams. But we'll see what happens. They obviously traded away one of their wide receivers in Jerry Jeudy as well. And like I said before, I could do a whole nother episode on the moves that have happened in the last 2 days. There is upwards of 30, which is American sport for you. It's been crazy, but obviously some notable ones. Derrick Henry, star running back for the Titans, free agent, has signed with the Baltimore Ravens. The MVP, the reigning MVP, Lamar Jackson, and a team who just hosted the AFC title game. So that, if you've ever seen dangerous in the backfield, that is Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. Good luck to any linebacker and defensive core trying to stop that. Saquon Barkley has moved from the Giants to Philadelphia, and if you're unfamiliar with the NFL, that is an in-division move. So there's 4 teams in each division, and I think there's about 8 or 12 divisions. There's 32 teams, so you can do the maths. But
8 divisions.
Yeah, Barkley moved in division, and you play the 3 other teams in your division twice a year, and they're all rivals.
That's going to be interesting.
Big rivals. Saquon Barkley is probably one of the biggest, most notable Giants, since Eli Manning and Odell Beckham. And he has decided to move to Philadelphia, who really only lost Jason Kelce through retirement, but they've just signed. They're making a super team pretty much. Yeah. They want to get back to the big dance. And they've signed Saquon. They've moved on from DeAndre Swift. And if Saquon's healthy, that is extremely dangerous. A massive move too. A few former running backs have just voiced their displeasure. So I cannot wait to see how that unfolds. Philadelphia and the Giants ×2 is going to be must-watch TV when the season rolls around. And then obviously, like I said, Russell Wilson has signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but he's going to be paid to play for the Steelers by the Broncos. And they actually go to Denver to play next season. So that is going to be hilarious if the Broncos end up paying Russ to beat them. I cannot wait for that. Either way, those teams will look quite different. It's an $85 million cap hit, like I said before. And finally, just one more notable one. Kirk Cousins, the former Minnesota Vikings quarterback, has gone to Atlanta with a few weapons down there. So plenty more to come. And really, all you can do at the moment is just sit back and wait for week 1 or the preseason to see who actually is on what team, because there's so many teams, there's so many movements that you really can't keep up. So yeah, I'm either going to wait till then or hopefully the new Madden game, and hopefully it'll be all, updated on there. But either way, a lot of moves in the NFL. Not back up and running again, obviously, till September, but cannot wait for that. The draft is also upcoming next month, so we're looking for a few Aussies, notably Tory Taylor. But that's the F1 for today. The NFL for today. We'll move on to the F1 quickly. And like I mentioned, Oscar, what a run to finish 4th. Danny Rick had a poor pit stop and actually spun out towards the end, got lapped by Max Verstappen, and notably, I think he almost or did get lapped by Sergio Perez, who is the guy he's trying to steal a seat off, which isn't quite working for him at the moment. But in Danny's favour is his home race. Not this weekend, but the one after, and I'll be there cheering him on. Hopefully he can make a bit of a comeback, get back to his prime Danny Rick form, which we love to see. It's great to see him smiling, and you hate to see him, not performing and not getting points. But Australia's the next race up, and like I said, that'll be not this weekend, but the one after, and you will see me there for sure.
No, I actually watched the Saudi Arabia race, and I employed.
Did you wake up at 4 a.m. or did you watch the replay?
No, so we watched a replay. A mate was playing it in Discord, so we were having a voice chat. listened to the commentary while I was doing a few things, but watched the last few things, and I gotta say, without the commentary in F1, it's just watching cars go by, no context whatsoever. But I employed the tactic that I mentioned a couple of weeks ago. I took the
It was
Red.
an entertaining race.
So
in that,
I took Red Bull out of it entirely. So well done, Charles Leclerc.
It was actually a decent fight, even below Max. I mean,
I think it was
Sergio
about-
took a while to.
I think it was fifth. It was after Piastri, so it was like fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. There was a few really good fights in the end, and I was
And it,
gripped in watching this in a sport that I don't usually find interesting because it's literally watching a TV with cars going around. But I paid attention to the commentary, which
commentary is
actually
great.
which actually made me invested in like all these little things going on, and I'm like, I understand the fact that okay, 1 and 2 is sewn up, but the battle for points is the important thing. And talking of F1, somebody in their debut race for Ferrari actually getting points, and I think it was the 69th time or something
Yeah.
that's happened.
And 18-year-old, if you don't mind, Ollie Behrman, who we're talking about, and I didn't mention him because he's a pom, but no, I love him. All respect to Ollie. 18-year-old kid, he races in F2, which is obviously the division below F1. Very similar series where you had a few guys in there, obviously, notably Jackie Doohan last year. But Ollie Behrman, so he took pole in F2 on the Thursday because obviously he took Carlos Sainz's place for Ferrari because Carlos came down with appendicitis, had to get his appendix removed. So Carlos actually did pre-practice on the Thursday and said he was fine. He just felt a little bit under the weather. And then actually he finished and he ended up going, oh boy, I'm actually really sick. So hats off to Carlos for doing that. Had his appendix out and was back at the race on Saturday. So he's pretty tough, the Spaniard. But Ollie took pole. He obviously just went into the weekend thinking, I'm just, it's just a F2 weekend in Saudi Arabia. Took pole, marched back to, his garage, was all happy, was all set to take pole and, win the first F2 race. And then Ferrari go, oh, sorry, Ollie, as your reserve driver, you're in, mate. And they've just chucked this 18-year-old fella in an F1 car and said, all right, go qualify. And he missed Q3, which obviously there's 3 qualifying sessions. 5 are eliminated and then another 5. And then the last 10 battle it out for the top 10. Ollie missed the third one by less than, I think it was like a bare hundredths, like a couple hundredths, like the smallest margin ever on his debut. First time in the F1 car, which is phenomenal. Started just outside the points and then, like you said, ended up finishing in front of the likes of Lando Norris and George Russell. Not George Russell, sorry. Lando Norris and 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton. Notably, they were on different strategies as they didn't pit after the safety car, but just phenomenal because a much longer race distance, bigger car, tougher conditions, best drivers in the world. And Ollie was, yes, the Ferrari's a great car, but he was able to steer it on debut for points. And I think he ended up finished 7th, which is not just scraping in. That's a decent effort. Like I said, beat Hamilton and Norris. So what an achievement to him. He was the story. He won Driver of the Day as well, which, I think should go to Max every week because I'm biased. Well deserved.
With a performance like that, and as I said, you take Red Bull out of the race, it becomes a lot more interesting, and you actually find those stories. Well, I found that story as a non-F1 watcher more interesting than, Verstappen's won again.
Yeah.
So it's great to see that F1 is actually appealing in just, it's the same old winner.
Yeah, it's a great battle, and it's been like that for a while. And Lewis Hamilton himself was talking about it the other day. Like, he came out and said, "You've got to respect what they're doing. People have to sit through my dominance when Mercedes, won their, consecutive titles between 20 whenever it was 20 to 2020. So it's just how it happens. But even when they were dominating, the pack below them is always close. It was always great to watch. So." Yeah, in case you hadn't hadn't understood what happened, my boy, Max Verstappen, yes, he won again. I think, he didn't quite lead every lap and he didn't get the fastest lap this time, but he's won for the 9th consecutive time, which means if he can win in front of my eyes next weekend, Woods, he will be the first person ever, just another record, to win 10 consecutive races twice. He's already done it once. He already has the record for the most consecutive races. He did that last year, and he can do it again. And like he'd have 20 consecutive if he didn't lose. He's just got a problem with Singapore, but if he didn't lose that, he's just phenomenal, Max Verstappen. And like I said last week, Woods, they can keep chasing. That's all we have time for on the podcast this week. Make sure you subscribe to us at Extra Time and you give us a bit of a like and some support. Always feel free to leave comments. We're open to suggestions, or if you want to have a crack at my trivia skills, Woodsy's trivia skills, make sure you check out the separate trivia episode as well. And take in all the sport this weekend. Go Hawks. We'll see you next week.